The rain poured relentlessly that evening, painting streaks across the tall glass windows of the Grand Imperial Hotel. Inside, the marble floors gleamed, and guests moved with quiet elegance, their laughter echoing faintly through the golden-lit corridors. But standing at the far end of the hall, dressed in a crisp white shirt and holding a leather bag, was a man who didn't quite fit the usual mold of a hotel guest. His name was Adrian Cole, a self-made millionaire, owner of the very hotel he was pretending to stay in. Yet that night, he didn't come as the owner. He came as someone searching for the truth. If you believe in kindness, compassion, and second chances, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Thread, because stories like this remind us that even the smallest hearts can carry the biggest lessons. Adrian had built his empire from the ground up, a man who knew hunger, struggle, and the taste of failure before he knew the sweetness of success. But lately, success had made him feel distant, detached from the people who worked for him. He heard complaints from staff, whispers of unfair treatment, and something inside him wanted to see for himself, not as Mr. Cole, the millionaire, but as an ordinary guest. He booked a room under a fake name, dressed simply, and blended in. He wanted to watch, to listen, and to understand what his people went through every day. That's when he saw her. She was young, maybe in her 20s, wearing a bright blue cleaner's uniform and yellow gloves that seemed too big for her small hands. Her face looked tired, the kind of tired that comes from more than just a long day. Her eyes, though, held something that caught Adrian's attention, quiet sadness mixed with fierce determination. Her name tag read, Emily. He watched as she moved through the hallway, pushing her cleaning cart slowly, humming softly under her breath. Every now and then, she'd glance at her phone, her lips tightening as if trying to hold back tears. Something about her expression tugged at Adrian's heart. She wasn't just tired, she was breaking inside. Later that evening, as the hall emptied, Adrian sat on a bench near the elevators, pretending to scroll through his phone. Emily entered the hallway, phone pressed to her ear, her voice trembling. She didn't notice him watching quietly from the corner. "Please, Mom, just hold on a little longer," she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. "The hospital said they won't continue the treatment unless we pay the remaining amount." "I'm trying, I promise. I'll work extra shifts." Her voice cracked as she tried to stay strong. "No, don't sell the house. I'll find a way." Adrian froze. The pain in her tone pierced him deeper than he expected. He saw her lean against the wall, one hand covering her face, her shoulders shaking as she cried softly. That single moment stripped away every illusion of luxury that surrounded them. He wasn't seeing an employee, he was seeing a human being carrying a storm no one else could see. He waited until she hung up, wiped her eyes, and forced herself to smile again before returning to her duties. Her strength stunned him. Most people would have broken under such weight, but she kept going, quietly fighting battles no one else noticed. That night, Adrian couldn't sleep. He thought about Emily, about how many others like her worked tirelessly in silence, invisible in the world he'd built. He realized he had forgotten what real struggle looked like. Money had distanced him from the reality he once lived. So the next day, he decided to learn more. He asked questions to other staff members, listened to their worries, and the more he heard, the more guilt filled his heart. The system he created had become so focused on profit that it forgot about people. A few days later, Adrian found Emily again. She looked weaker, exhausted. He overheard her speaking to the manager, asking for an advance payment to cover her mother's treatment. The manager declined politely but firmly, rules were rules. Emily simply nodded, thanked him, and went back to work without a word of protest. But her silence screamed louder than any complaint could. That evening, Adrian couldn't resist. He walked up to her in the corridor. "Excuse me," he said gently, pretending to be a guest. "My room could use some cleaning." She forced a polite smile, wiped her tears quickly, and followed him. Inside the room, she started tidying up, avoiding eye contact. Her hands trembled slightly. Adrian sat silently, pretending to check emails, but in truth, he was watching the quiet strength in every small movement she made. Then her phone rang again. She froze. It was her mother's doctor. Her face went pale as she listened. "No, please, don't stop the treatment," she whispered, voice breaking. "I'll bring the money tomorrow, please." She dropped the phone, covering her mouth to stifle a sob. That was the moment Adrian's heart broke. The moment that changed everything. Without revealing who he was, Adrian stood up and said softly, "Don't worry. Everything will be okay." She looked at him in confusion, eyes red from crying. He simply nodded and left the room. That night, he called his finance director and ordered an anonymous fund transfer to the hospital, covering the entire cost of Emily's mother's treatment and setting up a separate financial assistance program for all struggling employees. The next morning, the hotel buzzed with quiet whispers. Emily had received a call from the hospital, the bill was cleared, her mother's treatment would continue, and the doctor said someone had taken care of everything. She broke down in tears right there in the staff corridor, hands shaking, whispering thank you over and over, though she didn't know who to thank. When Adrian checked out that afternoon, he paused at the front desk, watching Emily from afar as she smiled for the first time since he arrived. There was light in her eyes again, a spark of hope. That sight was worth more to him than any business deal or profit margin ever could be. Weeks later, during a staff meeting, Adrian finally revealed the truth. He stood before them, no longer just their employer, but a man changed by what he had witnessed. He told them about his undercover visit, about Emily's struggle, and about how he realized that a business's true wealth isn't in its earnings, but in the people who help build it. He announced a new program for staff welfare, scholarships for their children, and medical support for their families. When he looked at Emily, she had tears streaming down her cheeks, but this time, they were tears of gratitude, not despair. The hotel that once gleamed with luxury now shone with kindness. And Adrian Cole, the millionaire who went undercover, found something far greater than profit. He found his heart again. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Thread. Your support helps us share more real stories that remind the world of compassion. Speech balloon special request, tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were in Adrian's place? Because sometimes, the richest hearts belong to those who remember what it feels like to struggle, and choose to help others rise.
Ponele, boludo, por las dudas. Putite.
Putite adoraron. Y nada, y
Putite y
después...
Denerium. Parece el nombre de una ETS, boludo, encima.
No.
Putite y Denerium. Imagínate si me agarró Putite
Putite
de
Edenerem. ¿Qué es? ¿Latín?
No, sí, ponele. No sé, Adonorem es latín, así que.
Pseudo latín. Bueno.
Sí,
Nada, ya está. Basta de guasquear caras. Ya está.
ahí va.
Ya está, basta. No vamos a ir a ningún lado. No, vamos a empezar a hablar de cosas y cosas.